So we're going to move into what is now a stellar panel that is going to provide perspectives on promoting gender parity and inclusion. And I'd like to welcome to the front our panelist, José Fornell, principal of the Miami office with Boston Consulting Group, Andrea Grobocopatel, president and founder of FLOR Foundation, Horace Paris, vice president, Human Resources Latin America, American Tower Corporation, and Sally Ng, vice president, Business and Legal Affairs, NBCUniversal International Networks for Latin America. Sally, thanks again for agreeing to moderate this morning's panel. I turn it over to you.
I am very excited to be moderating this panel this morning on a topic that is very dear to my heart, which is perspectives on gender and inclusion. So, to my right, I have, I know that Nancy already introduced Jose and Andrea and Horace, but maybe you guys could introduce yourselves to the group.
Hey, Sally. Thanks for having me here. José Fornell. I live here in Miami. I work with BCG. I've been doing consulting for 12 years. In BCG, I work with the mental health team. I lead that initiative. And I also part of the diversity group in the U.S.
My name is Andrea Grobocopatel. I'm from small city in Buenos Aires, 3 hours from Buenos Aires. And I define myself as a lot of roles, different roles. My family roles, I have 4 children and 1 husband. And and yet, 30 years marriage, I realized that this is especially in extinction, especially. In my professional roles, I am economist. I was the founder of a family business, agribusiness. It grows a lot. It was a multilateral company. 2 years ago, I sold my shares. It's different too, because normally you don't sell the shares of the family business. But I realized that I need dedicate my time to share with another my experiences, because I understand that we have a problem in our society to manage diversity. So I founded a foundation, FLOR Foundation, to improve leadership and organization in Argentina and Latin America. But I put focuses in gender, and then maybe I will talk about our program to prepare women to break the glass ceiling. And on the other hand, I founded a company to financial inclusion. It's named Resilience Social Reciprocate Warranty, because I realized that we talk a lot, but now we need action. So these are 2 different platforms to this. I live from the farm, because I have farm, cattle production, and grains, agribusiness. But I dedicate 95% of my time to do this. So very thank you to invite me to this, because this is what I want to do now.
Well, thank you. My name is Horace Paris. I'm Vice President of Human Resources for Latin America for American Tower Corporation. I'm based here in South Florida, and just a little bit about American Tower. What we do is we provide infrastructure to the telecom business in terms of towers, in terms of fiber, and other type of sites.
So Jose, I know that Boston Consulting has been a pioneer in a number of reports related to gender, inclusion, and parity. Can you tell us a little bit about their findings?
Yeah, thanks, Sally. Look, so first of all, I want to say this topic is very important for me. I'm a father of 3 daughters, a 4-year-old, a 2-year-old, and a newborn. I want to make sure that they have the same opportunities as everybody else, so it's very important. I also think having me here in this panel, it's also important as a male representative. There's been studies that show that diversity initiatives actually make better progress when you have males participating in that conversation. So again, thank you for that. Look, we thought we would start with maybe some statistics from some recent BCG studies, just to give some sense on what progress has been made and what progress has yet to be made. So first of all, let's start with some of the obvious ones, right? 56% of college grads are not women, right? So they're coming very well prepared to the workforce. 38% of the workforce is now women as well, and that figure has been increasing. There are some studies from BCG that find that 96% of companies now have a diversity program, right? And 75% of respondents in the BCG study said that diversity is gaining ground in their organizations. So there's some positive things happening. However, there's a lot of work that yet needs to be done. So for example, 26% of managers are women, only 15% of executives, 5% of CEOs, and 9% of board members. So there's a lot of ground to be covered and gained there. And while 96% of organizations report having a diversity program, only 25% of diversity groups and women believe they have personally benefited from them. So again, I think there's some progress that has been made, but the organizations are having these programs, but I think there's still a lot more to be done, and we have to question some of the diversity programs. Are they really working?
Those numbers are concerning. So Horace, I know that you head up HR for your organization. Can you tell us a little bit about why is it important to hire diversity? And if you do have a diversity program in your organization, has it helped?
Well, I really think that diversity helps businesses and communities, but not just about gender diversity. Also, cultural diversity helps as well. Backgrounds, everything adds value into an organization and the way we operate. Different perspectives, different experiences. We do have a program, and actually, this is probably related to what Jose is saying. It's not just about having a program or having a nice billboard. It's actually really living it and actually working with inclusion, right? Because again, you can have even KPIs in some cases, but really I think what's important is to have actions and tools in place that really allow and help the diversity in the workforce. And it needs to be embedded in the culture of the company. And that's what we're trying to do. We always strive for our management team, for our leaders, to really understand the benefits, and why we're doing this and why, we're supposed to do this.
And do you think that having diversity in the workforce, and it's great that you guys are thinking having that top of mind with the managers, bottom line with the numbers, has it helped? Have you seen a shift? Have you seen an actual metric of that could measure that diversity has helped to the organization?
I probably cannot say that we have, a KPI that would really indicate, but definitely we can see those benefits, because actually we have a correlation sometimes with other companies, with our customers, with the communities where we work, and definitely, when companies and communities see the efforts and see that we have, female leaders in high positions, right, and having a very strong position within the organization, that is also very helpful. We get that recognition, and at the end of the day, it goes back to the perspectives and the different views that are brought within the business, that we see those good results. Because the reality is that, and I guess probably everybody knows this, that male ways of thinking, if we have all people that are the same in the room, well, most likely the product is going to be the same, and you're not going to have any creativity. You're not going to have different perspectives, and that's why I mentioned also the culture and the other experiences too. So we definitely see that, and actually when we do any hiring process in the company, one of the first things that we tell the headhunters is that actually if you don't bring female candidates to the table, we consider that you failed in the process, right? Because that's how important it is to us. And sometimes, we can see that fortunately from the very top, which is another great thing, is that you need top management to really believe in it, and lead by example. And it's great to see sometimes when, you know, a division president or a division CEO gets frustrated, but maybe there's no female candidates, you know, within, you know, the ones that have to be interviewed or considered for a role. So I would say that it's a big plus, you know, to have, you know, women, you know, leading our workforce too.
Andrea, as an entrepreneur, I think that actually gives a different perspective to the people that work in a set organization. What has been your experience, and now actually working for the nonprofit that you mentioned earlier? What has been your experience in having more women in the negotiating table?
I understand that we need change the stereotypes, the culture. We have a big problem because we understand that there are some jobs for women, some jobs for men. So if we understand that diversity is very important because enrich our decision, we need the context help, not only education. I cannot believe that in United States you don't have parental leaves in the organization, and maybe it's more important the government thinking this. Because it's impossible to have children if so I understand that there are three things very, very important in your country, but I am supporting another country to do the same. But there are some countries that are very, very well. One is parental leave, mandatory for both. So it is the only way that we can change. The other is special care, not only for child, also for adults, also for people with handicap. If you have this, we are educated that the women must care from the child, from the adults, from the handicapped person. So if we don't have a special care, public, then maybe we can change. But now, to do this change very, very quickly, is necessary that the government and the companies help. Parental leave, special care, and I think quotas. I think in quotas, but for diversity, not only for women, not only, it's important that the organization don't have all women. So when I think in quotas, I don't think for women, I think for diversity. And so I believe we need change very quickly. We cannot talk, and we need to act. And to act, we need government, companies, women's. We need prepare too. Yes, we need change because we are educated with the same culture. Men, women are educated in a masculine leadership. So we believe in this kind of leadership. And sometimes we don't realize that we can do very good leadership. So we need prepare in negotiation, we need prepare in oratory or personal speaking, public speaking. So it's very important work in 360-degree. All we must do anything different today, because we cannot wait that as multilateral organisms say that if we don't do anything, we need 100 years to change. So all of us can do any special different. And talk with the government, talk with the companies. We need this because it's important, our vision. And if we believe that it's important, our vision, we need some practices to help the women. Because I realize that there are a lot of women that can be number one, but they need choose mother or professional. And it's not possible. It's better if we can do both, or we can choose. If we can choose what we want to do. If we want both, it's okay. If we want to be only mother, it's okay. If we want to be professional, okay. But we need freedom to choose.
You mentioned many things that I think I want to touch on and compartmentalize, especially since I have two men in my panel. There are statistics that say 17% of women are leaving their workforce at a mid-level. So you mentioned a couple of things, whether it is work-life balance, whether they have children at home and trying to juggle life. But you mentioned all the metrics from Boston Consulting. Why do you think women are leaving the workforce at a mid-level? And what are some of the tools that, whether in your experience you think have worked, or based on the statistical data that you may have, perhaps could be something that organizations, small enterprises or big enterprises, could look into to potentially fight that uphill battle of women leaving their careers at mid-level?
Yeah, so look, I think there's two primary reasons. The first one is they might not feel supported, or they might not feel that they can actually make it that much farther up, so they make a decision to leave. And the second one, it's, I think, obviously family. They decide to start families, and for many women, it could be tough to do both, or financially might not make economic sense. So I think the tools to help with this are several. The first one is, at the workplace, we have to go back to the basics, right? We have to have, again, good policies that are based on anti-discrimination and that are pro-diversity. And again, I think the ones that we have right now are not working, probably because we're not properly measuring them. If we started programs of KPI saying, here's where we expect to be by when, and
Sorry to interrupt, what do you mean by non-discrimination? Like what type of policies are you referring to?
So look, again, there's going to be policies around, so for example, at BCG, even though it's not a firm quota, we want to make sure that we have women, minorities, LGBTQ groups coming in and getting positions. So for example, we have 40% of all new hires are women. So we actively try to do those things, right? Those are going to be some of those. There's other anti-discrimination, right? So for example, blind, blind, so essentially not being able to go through and see, okay, this person is a female or male, and I'm going to select based on that, right? A resume. So having those kind of policies, having diversity panels that actually do the interviews, so that you eliminate some of those biases. So you can do some of those things. There's other things that we call more of hidden gems. And what we mean by that are there are programs that seem to be highly successful and women really want, which is having visible role models. So we do something similar in BCG. We bring in important panelists or speakers, former CEOs, very successful partners at BCG, to speak to young women and tell them those stories. And then the final one, it's family related benefits, right? We have to have work that it's that they can actually what do you call it? Work that it's what was the word?
Basically, they could provide flexibility.
Yeah, flexibility in the work. And then obviously excellent childcare, excellent healthcare. We have to have those kind of policies for family to work as well.
Okay. And Horace, from your end on the HR side, do you think, will you add any other tools in addition to having prospective role models for women or flexible work schedules? Anything else that you would add to that?
Well, definitely, I think that flexibility is one of the key things. And taking advantage of the technology that we have today available, but really, I believe that one of the first things is having a proper conversation with our employees, understanding the needs, the expectations, the fears, and really working around that as well. Because, like it was mentioned before, sometimes there are individuals that are not very keen to open up and speak, or maybe, raise a hand, say, well, I'm interested in this, or I'm afraid about this. So actually, in our case as leaders, what we need to do is, take that first step, have those conversations, understand, what are the concerns, and really, when we're talking about motherhood, for example, I think that's even more important to have that conversation, because I'm pretty sure that most of women have that concern. It's like, okay, and now, I'm going to have a baby, and, I'm going to take my leave, and, what's going to happen afterwards, etc. And if we have that conversation, basically, it is perfectly fine, and actually, this is what we can do around that to help you continue working with us. I think that's really key. And that's why, for example, in American Tower, our maternity and paternity policies are flexible. And what does this mean? Is that if you have, for example, I remember once having a conversation that in some countries, you know, that, you know, in Latin America, maternity leaves is 8-9 months, you know, paid, like in Europe sometimes. And in some other cases, like the United States, it's, you know, probably 2 hours after giving birth, you have to go back to work, you know. So it's like that. So you have, you know, the extremes. So, you know, we were discussing, I said, why don't we create something that, respecting the local laws, we actually try to ramp up a little bit, you know, those places that don't have those generous benefits. And basically the conclusion was, well, probably not a good idea, because if we set up whatever number of months, let's say 4 months, for some mothers, it could be hurtful, right? Because that mother maybe has all the support system, you know, the mother, the mother-in-law, the nanny, etc., and maybe the energy to basically go back to work immediately, right? Because that's the way she is wired. And maybe you have the other mother that doesn't have all those resources, right? And actually would like to stay with that child until, you know, he or she is probably 14 years old, right? So you have both extremes. So in one case, you know, you punish, in a way, somebody to have to stay at home for 4 months. And the other one is like, oh, it's only 4 months. It's too little, right? So if you work around, you know, what does the person need? What does the person expect? Then I think that the result is going to be very positive for the employee and for the company too.
Interesting. So I have a question for the three of you. We've heard about positive role modeling. We've heard about tools. What are women doing wrong? And what are they doing right? Because I think that that's an important key point for all of us here to take.
I think that probably there is something that women and employers are doing wrong, which is sometimes thinking that maybe that job or that company is not for me, right? Or that I'm not able to do that job because I'm a woman. And some companies that basically say, well, you know, this is not really suitable for a woman. So I think that's probably the first mistake. And I learned not to make that mistake when I used to work in the oil business. I worked half of my career in Schlumberger. And 25% of the field engineers in Schlumberger were female, right? And were very, very successful. And for you of those that don't know this, but usually well sites are not, you know, in Miami, Manhattan, London, and Paris. You know, they're not in charming places. They're pretty bad locations. And really, again, these female engineers working in those tough conditions were fantastic. You know, they were very, very good. And actually, the customers really valued having this diverse workforce because, again, they brought a different perspective and again, the diversity in terms of nationality, right? So I think that probably that's something that we need to stop doing, which is basically thinking on behalf of others as a company to say, well, you know, I don't think that this person, you know, or this woman would be, you know, this is the right job for her. And likewise, you know, women shouldn't be thinking about that, you know, should we basically say, well, do I have the experience? Do I have the ambition? Do I have the attitude? You know, I like the job, then I'm going to go ahead and do it.
In our foundation, we write some tips. So it's very important. Stop trying to be perfect. Ask for help. Be curious. Try to find a family work-life balance is possible. Choose good networks and teams so you can delegate and surround yourself by people who enjoy your success. Don't lose your independence and try to be active. When you decided to stay in your house with the children, it's okay, but try to be in this network, because it's important. Don't disconnect with the world, because then it's more difficult. Be yourself, build your a personal brand, and be protagonist, and be the best version of yourself. It's very important. Don't imitate. Ask for what you want, as you say. Don't wait around for some to make you an offer, because sometimes we understand that we will be known for this position. No, don't wait. Ask for what you want. Ask for more salary if you believe that you can you yes. And not always function as emotional. Show that you have numbers to, as your organization show, numbers that show that we are very necessary in position making and decision making position. Help other women. It's very important that we help ourselves. And so dedicate time to network. Dedicate time to network. Dedicate time to work, to prepare. Women in Decision program, who will be in Miami in August, is a good opportunity to train us in negotiation, in personal branding, in public speaking, but also in how to be number one, how to be a member of the board. Prepare for this, and then we have a very interesting network, professional work network. So it's very important we change, but I insist, it's very important the context help. The government is very important for us now. Maybe because now we need conscious change. Maybe in 3 years, this will be unconscious and we don't need more policies, but now we need policies to help this.
Look, I work with a lot of different people in different teams. Every 3 months, 6 months, I'm changing teams. So I get to see, I work with a lot of young men and women. First of all, let me say, in terms of technically speaking, and from how well prepared they are to execute on the job, they're both just the same, right? I mean, you're gonna have some very strong performers, some weak performers, but nothing from a technical perspective that you would find a difference. I think some of the things that you said, resonates with me. One of them being, I think sometimes women may not be advocating for themselves as strong as they should. You will find them advocating for the company, when they're negotiating with a third party, they do an excellent job, they execute flawlessly, right? Advocating for their peers, same thing. But I think sometimes they don't advocate for themselves as much. The other thing, and this is from my personal experience, I feel sometimes these conversations like the one that we're having right now leads women to think that when something like a review comes in and it's not as good, maybe it's because of bias. And I think we have to be careful and really be introspective when we see these. Are there things that I really need to improve to be better, right? And I've seen that in my own career, where I've had situations where I thought, hey, maybe it's my accent. Maybe it's because I'm Latin that there is some bias here. But the reality is, I needed to improve on some things. And when I did, things just went excellent. So I want to encourage to make sure that we're listening to some tough messages. And the introspective thing, is this true? Okay, how can you help me work through this, right? And I think when people are, the best of the best, they will get the right opportunity.
So Jose, you mentioned that women, sometimes we fail to advocate for themselves, and we may be fierce in negotiating and advocating on behalf of others, but when it comes to us, we take the backseat. What do you think is the role of mentorship? And I know we've talked about it at the beginning of the conversation of mentorship and sponsorship, but how can we help women to improve on the areas that you mentioned and the team mentioned here as to weaknesses?
So look, I think again, it goes back to this mentorship, and it's very open communication. When I work with my teams, I say, look, there's gonna be some very open communication from me to you, and I expect the same from you to me, right? There's no hard feelings. We have to make sure that we communicate properly so we can all achieve the results that we want. So mentorship is a key aspect of this, but it has to be an open conversation. It has to be a professional open conversation where the males, in the case you're a male, don't feel that I don't know how to give this message because it might be taken the wrong way. That has to be out of the equation if you're going to be successful. And same thing, the young women need to make sure that they introspectively say, okay, is there some things that I really need to improve? And look, if that person, I always tell my team, I'm going to say a few things, and I say this to young men and young women. If you feel what I'm saying is wrong or is incorrect, let's have a conversation. I, on purpose, actually show them the review before I submit. And I say, this is what I'm going to submit. This is what I'm going to say about how you did here. And I do this before I submit it because I want us to have a conversation where if there is something that I appreciate, it's happening, but you can show to me that it hasn't, I'm happy to change it, and I have many times.
Andrea, so in your organization, FLOR, you mentor a number of women. Can you talk a little bit about the role of mentorship, the women that you do, and this is in Latin America, not here in the U.S. So it would be good to hear a little bit about that perspective as well.
I began to mentor women with vital voices, with Gabi, and I believe this is a very important tool. And this is a formal way, but I do in an informal way too, because when women call me by social media, I answer Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and to help another. So it's very important to do this. But we have one stress that our organization has, is that we need time and we need a structure to do this. So sometimes you need a sponsor because you cannot do a lot of things because you don't have assistant to do this. So I love mentor. I believe it's a very good way to help others. Our foundation don't do mentor special because we try to articulate with another organization because this is important. We cannot do different spread time and money. If we have a lot of organization doing the same, we lose time and money. So mentorship with vital voices. FLOR Foundation with preparing women to break the glass ceiling. This program will be in Miami for Latin American. We want women from Colombia, Peru, Honduras, because we need them as motor of change, coming back to the countries and doing the same that we are doing in Argentina. So we want prepare them, one or two each time, to help them to do the same in there. And we have another program in our foundation that is Women's Affairs. It's for women who want entrepreneurs, no executive, only women that want to do new business or new dream, because we understand that economic independence for women is very important. And sometimes women stay with the husband or the father and need to ask the money to them. So we need to prepare them to have the economic independence. So it's a different program to help women to do this, to realize about this. And we have another workshop for men, because we need to talk about new masculinity. We need to talk what happened with men when the women work, when the women have more salary than them. It's different things that are happening, and we need dialogue about this. So this workshop is just to talk what they feel, how they see us, as you ask them, how they see that we must to do better. So this is only for men, and once a year, just to hear. And I remember that one time one man say, Andrea, you talk about parental leaves. If I have the parental leave, I will continue going to the company because I don't know what can I do in my house. And I say, and you think that I know, or I have a university to prepare me? No, you go to the house to care the children and learn doing. So this is necessary dialogue, because we need broken the stereotypes. We need broken the way that we were educated. women and men and all the gender were educated in one way, and now we are changing this. So, because this is very important dialogue here and others, and learn. We are learning. When I come here and you ask, I learn again because I need reflects about what is happening with me, with you, and both. So it's very, very important, the dialogue.
So we've talked about mentorship. We've talked about changing yourself, becoming the best version of the best version of yourself. But we truly need help on other areas. So in California, there's a new law that prohibits all-male boards. What are your thoughts? And Horace, I'd like to hear about this from your perspective, from the HR side and being in a big organization like yours.
Well, I'm not very big supporter of laws or quotas. I think that at the end of the day, we really have to embed that within the culture of the companies, not really force it. That really, usually things that are imposed probably are much more difficult, to last and to really be ingrained within our organization. And I think that it has to go back to, the most qualified talent. And I really think that it's up to the companies really to understand the importance and make it happen. But I'm personally, I don't think that. I think that, promoting it is a great thing. Having good examples, having forums, giving that space, and actually, from within, opening those doors, allowing those opportunities to happen and at the companies and at government levels is what really happens, and it's probably the way to go.
Any thoughts on your end?
I'll add one piece. So, look, I agree with Horace, and legally mandated quotas can be dangerous, right? Where does it go from there? Are you gonna do it now by industry, by function, by position? It's very tricky, and it could be very dangerous because it goes both ways. Right? There's gonna be some industries that are women represent the primary workforce. You're gonna now regulate those as well. So it could be dangerous. If it's stayed at the board member level, maybe it could work. I think there's enough qualified women that it's just that can take on those roles. But if these kind of things tend to be a slippery slope, if it happens, it could be dangerous, right? It could essentially lead to a backlash. So I agree with that, and I think there's other topics that can actually help promote these better. So, for example, there's a study from BCG that showed that companies that are more diverse have 20% more innovation-related revenue and 10% higher EBIT margins than companies that are less diverse. So it is in the best interest of companies of being diverse, right? And I think those are the kind of things and ideas we should be promoting, as opposed to legally saying you ought to do this.
So how do we make sure we get that equal treatment, equal inclusion, opportunity for inclusion? I think that's the dialogue that we need to make sure that we continue to have. I don't know if you seem to.
Yes, in our foundation we have an award for companies, the best companies, big companies, small companies, NGO, and public sector. Who has the best statistics of women in leadership, or who has the best statistics in handicap, disability person. And so we give an award just to show that some companies had good practices that we another can imitate. So I believe this is very important to help the companies to realize what they can do and to see inside what is happening in them. I want to say that last century was the institutionalization, and this century is inclusion. So we must work for better institution and more inclusion, not only gender. I have 4 children, and the one is handicapped. So because this, I understand, it's very important, the inclusion in general and value diversity. I learn a lot with the handicapped person near me. So, and I take better decision when I was with her or when I was with people different. So it's very important things that diversity is a real things. Un hecho. Diversity is the fact. We need inclusion. Inclusion is the action.
Absolutely, absolutely. I want to open it up to the floor in case of questions.
Hi, thanks. Michelle Johnson. I work with a business school, Inkai Business School. And we've done a lot of this research in the region, and what you're saying is the same data that we found in Latin America. We focused on a study, the impact of women on competitiveness of the company, the barriers why women aren't rising, same things you're talking about, many of the same things. One thing, and I'm particularly interested in Jose's response to it, that I didn't hear that we uncovered because we did a psychological perspective as well, there were questions psychological, is unconscious bias. And we found in our study that it does exist, which is interesting. You can only discover it through analysis of psychological indicators, and we had a PhD in psychology from Harvard do the study. So I'm just curious if you found those in your studies at Boston Consulting Group.
Yeah, we found some of that. But I think more than a gender-related bias, it's more generational. And actually in the study, what we found, in one of these studies, what we found was men that are 45 years and older tend to underrate, essentially, or they believe that the barriers that women have at the workforce are less than what, women and males below 45 years of age. So below 45 years of age, women and males are on the same page. It's males over 45 years of age that are on a different page. And I think that that is, a lot of it is potentially just a generational issue, that while it's going to be hard to change, you can still foster some better education programs for that. And again, like promoting some of the things that I mentioned, right? A company that's diverse is going to be more innovative. You're going to do better. You're going to be more successful because of it. So promoting those ideas, I think, is going to be helpful. But I think it's something that can be overcome.
Good morning. My name is Rocio. I'm a Guatemalan attorney, settled in Miami 4 years ago, actually coursing LLM program at FAU and working at a Children's Movement of Florida, an organization who advocates for early childhood here in Miami and Florida statewide. So I've heard all of your participations, and you all agreed in open table, in open conversations, in advocating for ourselves. But I was wondering, it's very exhausted to be always advocating for yourself as a mother, as a woman. So how could that be changed from the seniors positions? Because if you're always expecting to have a woman as a boss so you can talk to her about it openly, or if you're expecting to have bosses who are 45 or younger to left that traditional expectations of what we should do, it's very hard to keep up with your work, to be trying to improve professionally, to keep up with family, and also be advocating for yourself. So how do you propose that to be changed?
So I think, it goes back to really the leaders of the organization, facilitating those conversations and helping, each one. Again, this is not just about women, it's about employees in general, and giving them the opportunity to have these conversations and understand their priorities, right? And understand the struggles that the person is going through to make sure that there is a right balance. And like I said before, there's a great advantage in these days with technology and flexible policies. So there could be the case, of mothers or even fathers, that can work from home several days a week and actually with that very honest and transparent conversation, it could be the case that there are some employees are basically saying, you know what, I'm okay where I am. I don't want to be this. I don't want to be there, or I don't want to restrict my career in a certain way. So I think that it goes back to that, to avoid that struggle, but that communication needs to happen. Otherwise, it's not possible really for the leadership team to understand what the person is needing, what the person is expecting, and where are the challenges. Like you mentioned, it's sometimes very difficult to always advocate for yourself, right? But that again, has to be the company that has to make a big shift in terms of what do they do, what tools they have in place to review their talent, to develop their talent. What are the conversations that are around the table? When there is a talent review, how much does everybody know about the other people? And actually, it even starts before at the talent acquisition process, right? When basically, and this is a mistake that lots of companies do, and fortunately in American Tower we managed to get rid of it, is we basically have a salary and benefits, etc., for the position. So we're not talking about man, woman, and we don't care where the person is coming from. And sometimes we've had the pleasant surprise, right, that somebody was expecting maybe to make, I don't know, $50,000, right? And basically we were saying, okay, but your salary is going to be $75,000. And the person was making maybe $45,000 before, and with $50,000 was going to be very happy. But for us, it's like, yeah, but the job is worth $75,000. That's the market. That's what we study. This is what the consultants have told us, and that's what we're going to pay, regardless of what you made before, right? On where you're coming from or what your gender is. So I think it really has to go back, to the leadership and providing the tools, to facilitate these conversations.
Introduce yourself.
Yes, my name is. Thank you. My name is Barbarita Guzman. I'm from Caracas, Venezuela. I'm partner of the firm Anzola Rafael y Rodriguez. I moved to the US 1.5 years ago. And I like this panel a lot about diversity and women. But I think that if you are a woman, I am also a mother of 4 kids. I think motherhood is very important for mothers. And you, of course, you want to be the best in your job, but also you want to be the best mom if you care about your kids. And I think it's very important, the flexibility for moms. Sometimes maybe they quit the job because they see the kids are growing and you don't want to miss that. So I think that for women, it's important that. And flexibility and talking about that, because sometimes I feel that when they talk about women, they forget about motherhood, and it's very woman to be a mother. So that is my comment.
Thank you.
I believe it's not only for women, it's for men. I find some men that realize when they finish the career that they realize that they don't be with the children. So it's for both, flexibility for both, for the couple. It's very important begin to think when we are younger, the men too, that they are losing a lot of this. So we need more familiar companies. I know one friend that say the family lend the employee to the company, and the company sometimes give you back very tired, very bad, and it's not very good for the family. So we need to be better in the company too. So not only flexible for men, for women, the children need both, the couple. So it's very important thinking this, because this, sometimes I don't say only the company, we need the government help the company to realize about this. And so these policies in companies, in government are very important. But for women, it's very important not only dialogue, ask the money, because if you are mother and you don't ask the salary for these 3 months or 4 months, you become to be different because you don't have the jubilación, retirement. You lose some money, and I cannot explain the problem when you don't have a patrimony because you don't work. You work a lot, but without salary when you are in the house. And so when you want to begin any enterprise and you need financial inclusion, you don't have, and you need to go to ask the father, the brother, the husband. So we need think in our economy too. So it's very important in our economy autonomy.
Absolutely. I think we have time for one more question.
Ourselves, like women supporting women, and I found many times that we do not support each other, no, and judge very quickly, no, especially on that flexibility piece, no. I mean, if you leave early, if you take time, it's like if we are playing kind of the male role. So, and especially for Horace and you as well, Jose, I mean, how do you see this? I mean, it's something that you notice from a male perspective happening, and what is your take on that as well?
Come to FLOR Foundation. We think different. We think that we need be more generous with each other. We need to sponsor each other's. Yes, but it's very important to put the chip, the FLOR chip.
And probably what was said before, is I think it's important for the mentor also to understand, the role and the importance, and the companies to help with that in terms of saying, okay, I'm going to be helping with mentorship, but maybe we need to have dynamic mentors as well. One thing is to start in the company, right, and get a gist and get an understanding of how it is to work over there with certain individuals, and then is really looking into what's next, for the individual, and basically have, another mentor over there. But really, again, male and female mentors need to understand the importance and what is expected from them, for those roles. So I think it's a combination of efforts, really.
And on that, I think, going back to the mentors aspect, mentor programs work, and it actually helps, back to what you said before, it helps women advocate for themselves as well. And they don't have to be complicated, right? We have several different types of mentorship programs in BCG. There's some meetings that happen, twice a year. Some meetings that would happen every quarter, and then you're encouraged to have other meetings like once a month with some of your mentees. If you dedicate 1 hour of the month, 1 hour every other month, to having some of these conversations with those mentors, you can achieve a lot. I mean, they will know what you want, what you need, and they're gonna know it's a forum where you're gonna have open conversations. So again, I think if we do some of these mentorship programs, we can actually achieve much better results for women, diversity groups, and also for the communication across males, females, etc.
Thank you very much, each and every one of you,